We're beginning now the 13th day of preparation for the total consecration to Jesus through Mary. It was the 12th of December, 1531. Juan Diego started before day dawn for the city, but on coming to Tepeyac, which lay on his way, he remembered that he had missed his appointment with the Blessed Virgin on the previous day. But he was now on an errand of such importance, that is, his uncle who was dying. He was trying to fetch the priest for his uncle who was dying. And besides, he feared to incur the displeasure of she whom he had already venerated as his heavenly mother. So, with his characteristic simplicity, Juan Diego began walking around instead the other side of the hill. So that is, walking around rather than over the hill, thinking he would thus avoid meeting her, at least until he could come back and devote himself entirely to her service. But he suddenly saw Mary coming down the hillside towards him, and falling on his face, he begged her pardon most humbly, and told her all that was happening to his uncle, who, remember, was dying. The Blessed Virgin then said to him, "Am I not here, who am thy mother? Art thou not under my care? Am I not life and health? Thy uncle will not die from this attack. Be assured that he is already in good health." Juan believed her words without any hesitation, and forthwith he asked her to grant him the sign which the bishop had required and she had promised to give. Mary ordered him to climb the hill and pluck the roses he would find on the top of it. Though Juan Diego knew that there could be no roses on the stony summit, remember this is in December, so even the stony summit throughout the year was so stony there were no roses, but especially in December. And he said this to Our Lady, but he did not say this, rather he did as Our Lady told him, and very soon he came to where she was standing with his cloak full of what tradition describes as roses de Castilla. So that is, he went up the hill and he found there these miraculously growing roses, he picked them and then put them into his mantle and came back to her in what was his tilma. So his tilma is a type of cloak, sort of, you almost picture like a poncho, but the tilma that he was wearing, that was a common vestment at the time, made out of cactus fiber. And he comes to Our Lady, and Our Lady takes the roses in her hands, and after gazing a while upon them, gives them back to Juan Diego, puts them into his tilma, having first fastened it with a knot behind his neck. She told him to take them to the bishop without showing them to anyone on the way. And we can imagine the joy of Juan Diego as he now has the miraculous sign to go tell the bishop, and above all, he'd just seen Our Lady, which would have conveyed joys beyond, far beyond anything in this world. On reaching the bishop's palace, the servants were more troublesome than ever, wishing this time to see what Juan Diego was carrying in his tilma. But when, in spite of his resistance, they saw the flowers, 3 times they tried to grasp them, and 3 times they failed, because the roses, as they later acknowledged, seemed to them something painted and unreal. It was like they tried to reach out and grab the roses, and they miraculously weren't there, or it was like they were painted on his cloak, and they couldn't grab them at that moment. So after all of this, finally, they allowed him to come into the bishop's presence, and then he opens up his tilma. So he spreads out his tilma, and the roses fall to the ground. And so with great joy, he's saying, "Here, bishop, here's the miraculous sign." But the bishop and his assistants instead are staring in amazement at Juan Diego's tilma, and then they fall to the ground kneeling to venerate the presence of Our Lady's apparition on his tilma, which then is first placed in the bishop's chapel, and then in the chapel where so many millions would come to be converted. And in the course of 5 years, there were, I believe, around 8 million, 5 or 8 million of the local people who were converted in just the short span of a couple of years. And so what is this apparition? And there's so much more that could be said about the miracles of Our Lady of Guadalupe, about the image. What does Our Lady want to teach us from this as we are preparing for total consecration to Jesus through Mary? Well, the main teaching is once again her gaze, her on this image. She herself painted this image by miraculously it seems the dyes from the roses was miraculously imprinted in a way that science cannot explain on the tilma. And so take time in your home, if possible, to have an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe and look at her face, her loving eyes. So much conveys her motherly presence. Just as she told Juan Diego when he was worried about his uncle, he felt he couldn't do what Our Lady was asking him because his uncle was dying. And so he said, "I'm sorry, my lady, I have to put this off. I have to go get the priest." That's one of the most important things in the world you can do is have a priest come to give the last sacraments to someone who's dying. And yet she says to him, she says, "Am I not here, who am thy mother? Art thou not under my care? Am I not life and health? Thy uncle will not die from this attack. Be assured he is already in good health." And in fact, she miraculously healed him. "But am I not here, who am thy mother? Art thou not under my care?" And that is the great message I want to highlight from today, along with Our Lady's appearance, is that as part of this total consecration, we're saying, I give away my own interests, that is pursuing whatever I need, even whatever my family needs, whatever my friends need, and I want to, every moment of every day, pursue what you want me to do, my lady. I want to take your desires, your interests as my own, and I sacrifice all of mine, and I ask you please to take care of them. And when we do that, she will take much better care of them than we possibly could. In this case, she miraculously healed Juan Diego's uncle and appeared to him. And so not only healed him, but appeared to him and gave him that great grace. So also, when you choose to put first what Our Lady wants you to do, something for the salvation of souls, so whatever it might be, rest assured that she will take much, much better care of your interests. And so part of the great teaching of St. Louis de Montfort in this devotion is that we should try every moment of every day to say, my lady, my good mother, what is it that you want me to do? What are your desires for how I can live this moment? And that may, in many cases, involve laying aside things that seem more urgent to do what instead Our Lady is placing on our heart or soul. And I don't mean by that that you'll have all the time of course, not an apparition or sensible hearing words directly all the time of you should do this, but just by having that attitude of saying, I want to do your will, and trying prayerfully to be aware that she is right by your side and seeking to do what she wants us to do, she will be able to guide your heart in different ways to perceive what God's special plan is for you that day. And you'll find with time that the other interests in your own life or your family's life or those around you will be taken much, much better care of than you could possibly have done. And so I'll leave you with this image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which I'll try to set here. Actually, I can't quite set there, so I'll set down. And let's ask Our Lady in this Memorare to guide us in everything, and tell her that we want to accomplish her motherly desires, and we're confident she will take care of ours. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, we fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, our Mother. To thee do we come, before thee we stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not our petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer us. Amen.